Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Let's Be Blunt with Montel. I'm your host, Montel Williams, and today we're exploring an exciting and evolving aspect of cannabis industry, cannabis consumption lounges, and the role of education in creating safe spaces for enthusiasts. Joining us to discuss this is Allison Benedict, trailblazer in shaping how we view and consume cannabis, originally from Phoenix, Arizona. Allison's personal experience with cannabis began after a college accident that led her to explore plant-based medicine as an alternative form of pain management. That experience ignited a passion that has guided her career in a profound way. Allison, thank you so much for being a part of Let's Be Blunt with Montel today. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Look, let's get started by talking a little bit about your own personal cannabis story. How did that pivotal moment in college help to change your perspective on cannabis and lead you into the industry?
Yeah, really before I started personally using cannabis for pain management, I had a neutral to neutral negative position on the plant. I was even one of the people that thought negative things about people who consumed cannabis because I really wasn't educated and I didn't know any better. And I was just following guidance of, people and adults around me. But once I realized that that was not true, that it was actually something that changed my life, it allowed me to manage my pain after breaking my back and still be able to commit myself to my schooling and my academics in a way that didn't alter me. Prior to starting cannabis, I was on prescribed opiates, and it was a horrible feeling, a horrible experience for me. And making that transition off of that and using cannabis for pain management, really, it changed my whole career because I went from a pre-med distinction into plant sciences based off of how much this plant impacted my life. And I wanted to know how other plants could do that too.
Sure. Slow down just a little bit. And I don't want,
Sure.
I'm not trying to make you relive a bad experience, but explain to us what actually happened. You broke your back, you said?
Yeah, I broke my back in 3 places. It was just a freak accident. Honestly, I wasn't even doing anything cool. I I just fell the wrong way and I landed and compressed my spine in the upper part of my back. And so it wasn't something that you could really recover from, and it wasn't something that you would even know that you had an injury, other than the amount of pain that I was in. And so they didn't perform a surgery. They didn't do any of that. I just had to live with this new placement of my spine where the vertebrae were, crushed upon one another.
Were
you
in a brace or?
Yeah, only for a little bit, because then it was just about the spine realigning itself. It was interesting. I went to physical therapy for a while, but they really, like I said, they really just wanted me to use, painkillers to manage it. And that was not working for me. I was, honestly totally out of it when I was trying to go to chemistry class, and you can't learn when your brain is not fully functioning or there. So,
Right, sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Now, fast forward to today, you hold a significant role at a company called TerrAscend. First off, tell us what TerrAscend is, and then let's talk to our listeners about, what your position is there. What is TerrAscend?
Yeah, so TerrAscend is a publicly traded multi-state operator based in Pennsylvania. They operate mostly in the East Coast, but they do also have operations in Michigan and California, in addition to the New Jersey, Maryland, and Pennsylvania markets in the Northeast. And I am their senior director of brand management, and I also oversee all of their product innovation.
They are a multi-state operator, clearly with completely vertical licenses in every state that you're in.
Yes.
And you manage your own Terra brands, or you bring in other brands? What?
They have both. So they have a house of brands that we have an internal brand team that manages those and protects those brands. And then we also have licensed partnerships, Cookies and Wana, for example, and I help to manage those relationships in my capacity there.
Wow. It's interesting. Now, while you do that, you've also developed this whole concept around consumption lounges, or is that part of the Terra brand model?
No, it's entirely separate. It's really my passion and my passion project that I do entirely outside of my capacity with TerrAscend. And, I started pause consumption because I really wanted to advocate for consumption legalization primarily, but also to provide safe places and inclusive places where people can consume and connect with one another. The plant is inherently social, and so bringing people together to consume the plant in a safe and responsible environment was why I did that.
And you also provide education at these facilities, or no?
Absolutely. Yeah. We are very centered on education. Pretty much everything that we do, education is infused into that. So that will be at our consumption events. But, we also have created and developed what we call books or guides that are resources that we provide for free on our website, pauseconsumptionlounge.com, that you can just download. And we have different guides for different purposes. We have a dosing guide, for example, which takes every type of product that can be consumed and breaks down, different infusion technologies, the different experiences that you will have when consuming flower, for example, versus an edible, what a starting dose can look like if you're just getting into the cannabis experience, and really advocating for what we call conscious consumption. So, having a purpose and an intention, and making sure that you also are not going to overconsume or overdose yourself. We do have a few other guides as well. One that I really love is called How to Talk to Your Parents About Cannabis. And that really is focused and centered on the conversation that, a lot of us have with our parents as now adult children. And part of that is, understanding why we are using cannabis in our lives and trying to break down the stigma or their perception that they might have growing up during, the height of propaganda against the plant, as well as, opening the door to a conversation on how cannabis might benefit them as they get into their more mature years.
I mean, what kind of events does Pause host, and how do they contribute to your mission?
Yeah, so we host all different types of events. One of the ones that we're most excited about right now is what we call POP. It's Powering Our Potential, and it is a consumption networking event where we're bringing together cannabis professionals or those who are looking to get into the industry. And, we really facilitate networking and conversations with those individuals while we safely consume with some of, the best product providers that are available in the industry.
And which states are these pause lounges in?
So we operate right now as a pop-up consumption lounge. So we host these consumption events all over the country. We are working towards a brick and mortar location. But right now, for example, consumption lounges and consumption is not fully legalized in Arizona, where I'm at. And so we're not necessarily going to open up brick and mortar until that happens. And there's a regulatory framework, which is part of why we advocate for legalization.
But wait, within the regulatory framework that they already have, you can have a consumption event at a location?
You can, yes. Because it is a private event and it is a ticketed private event on private property. This is a big part of why, we're trying to educate about this. Is there's a lot of misunderstanding that you can legally purchase and legally possess a product that you purchase within the framework of an adult use program, for example. But then in a lot of states, you can't legally consume that product unless you have private property or go to one of these private events. And so that's a major social issue that we're trying to address through the legalization of consumption lounges within a regulatory framework that is similar to what you see with dispensaries, for example.
How do you see this evolving over the next couple of years? I mean, we're about to go, hopefully, relatively soon, if the DEA does what they're set to do. I'm not necessarily, I was never for rescheduling to Schedule 3. However, if they do that, this is going to change the dynamic at all. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
people don't even understand how wide, broad ranging this is going to be, because this could, in some ways, affect events like the ones that you're trying to hold.
It absolutely could. I think it will be a positive. I think it will be a benefit if we have, descheduling. Similar to you,
Remember,
I'm not necessarily for rescheduling.
yeah,
Um,
right now, that's the only thing on the table is rescheduling, not
exactly. Yeah.
descheduling.
Descheduling, I am not for. I do not think that the plant should be illegal. I do think that it should be regulated as an intoxicant, but under a program that's similar to alcohol or cigarettes.
And
Where
alcohol, I don't believe, and cigarettes, I don't believe are on the schedule.
no, not at all. And cannabis shouldn't be either. So I do think that will have a major effect. But what I would like to see is that consumption and consumption lounges become an extension of the current industry.
Mm-hmm.
From where I see it and through my experience, what I see is we have built a tremendous amount of infrastructure. We have built these state level programs that could support, national consumption around the country. And what I see needs to happen is that, for example, what they did in Nevada, where you can add a consumption lounge as part of your dispensary, or you can open up a separate consumption lounge where you can dispense product and have a per person allotment that is, tracked and traced through a program, like what we have in any dispensary. And so leverage the infrastructure that's already built and provide a safe place where people can then go to purchase and consume cannabis.
And how many markets are you in? I'm sorry, you said it, but how many markets are you in right now?
So social consumption is legal in about 11 states. So that's where we will host events. And then, we are looking at Canada, for example, where regulations are starting to open up, but we'll just follow what the rules are as they evolve.
And so, I mean, what in the 11 states that you've been doing this in, what kind of pushback do you get at the state level? And I'm sure that, like this industry is, we are the I think the bucket crab industry. Anybody does anything new, all the other people in the industry try to pull you down. I mean, I'm sure you're coming in from out of state to a state that you're not licensed in, but you're holding an event. I'm sure the dispensaries get together and they get all pissed off about it. Or is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Surprisingly, I haven't had that reaction from people. I think there is this inherent desire for people to come together and consume the plant and have that social networking that is natural when, coming and smoking with friends, for example. But they see it as a way to honestly connect with their consumers more. Because now, not only are they going to just stand on a sales floor and describe a product to you, or a brand is hoping that someone's going to describe their product or recommend their product to you, they can actually talk directly to their end consumer and then walk them through a consumption experience and get that real-time feedback and interaction that creates a certain level of brand loyalty that you don't necessarily find in the industry right now. So a lot of it has been excited interest rather than, concerned about competition, for example.
Sure. Now, you clearly do you do this via the internet, email? People get an email blast and recognize that they can come to an event, or how do you do it?
Yeah,
Do you pass out hand out flyers at dispensaries? What do you do?
we do all of that. So we do have an email list where it's certainly the best information that you can get real time on where we're going to be and what our events will be. But we do absolutely do like more guerrilla marketing techniques where we're taking flyers and cards to dispensaries or other kind of cannabis friendly types locations and dropping them off with, simple QR codes that are directing people to where they can find tickets or more information about the event. And then obviously on all of our social platforms as well. Because of the audience that we engage with, it's interesting. And I don't know if most companies or brands would see this, but LinkedIn is actually one of our highest performing social platforms, second to Instagram. And that's really just because we're talking mostly to cannabis professionals when we're looking at the attendees of our events.
Wow. Now, can you share maybe some success stories that you've had since you started the pause events and highlight, some of the impact that this had on education? Because, one of the things that you had said earlier, and I believe very strongly, is what this industry does the biggest disservice to is education, education, education. I mean, I
Yeah.
think we've got to do a better job of educating the consumer to even let them know what's available Do you hold events like tutorial kind of educational events?
Yeah, absolutely. And we always have a place within our events that is dedicated to, education and learning more. Some of the testimonials that we've heard from attendees of our events is, this made me feel safe and comfortable. This was my first time consuming cannabis, and I did it in a way where, I really enjoyed myself. A lot of what people will say after our events is like, it's about the vibes. There's something about the energy of our events that is just filled with so much like love and security that both experienced consumers and new consumers alike are feeling like, wow, this is a place I really want to be. And on our networking events, we've had a few people who are like, their testimony is, I'm trying to get into the industry, and I went here and I made some really great connections that are leading to, my career goals and what I'm trying to do with my, my change in career getting into the industry, which I think is really cool.
Do you reach out, do you reach out to the local mayor's office, local police chiefs? Do you do any of that? Or you just find a place that you know is a private place that you can hold an event and hold it? Or you afraid?
We do engage with, local authorities. Certainly security and compliance, although it is self-induced compliance, if you will, because there's not a regulatory framework that we're required to adhere by. We do take that seriously. And so we're letting people know, hey, we're doing this. We want to do this. We would actually really like if you guys could codify some regulations and create a framework for us to operate in. Otherwise, we're going to just do this safely on our own.
And I'm sure at these events you are building a pretty strong base and partnerships with lots of different organizations. Um,
Mm-hmm.
are you starting to find that those organizations want to, let's say, XYZ dispensary wants to hold an event and they reach out to you and say, will you put it on for us?
Yes, yeah, and that is absolutely something that we do. So we've worked with the JARS dispensary group in the past. That was fantastic. We did a campaign with them that we called Highs for Humanity. And we first did a collection at their dispensaries where we put pause collection boxes for toiletries and essential items for the unhoused population here in Phoenix. So we were driving people into their stores first and foremost, building excitement about the event. And then we hosted an event where we took all of those collected donations, packaged them up into care packages, had some other kind of activities and things happening while those care packages were being, assembled. And then, yeah, it was amazing. We distributed them out to the local community here. So it was a way that we could also do some giving back and some charitable work. Again, driving sales into their dispensaries and hosting a consumption event. So we really ticked a lot of boxes with them.
I mean, how do you kind of get beyond the misconceptions that there's going to be a whole load of high people leaving a place at the same time? It's going to cause automobile accidents and all kinds of civic mayhem. How do you get beyond that?
That's a great question. We really encourage people both in our pre-promotions and at the events to use rideshare programs instead of driving themselves. We also have time essentially after the event has ended officially that we're not necessarily kicking people out or asking them to leave. They can stay. They can, start to feel better before they're required to get into their vehicle. So those are just some of the things operationally that we've done to help, make sure people are safe.
And, this is going to be a competitive landscape once, more people get more involved. I mean, what would you say to somebody who wants to get into the same type of thing that you're doing?
Please do it. I would say, honestly, I look forward to the day that there's a lot of competition because that means that we have made tremendous headwind in getting consumption lounges and consumption vents to be more regular. They're here and there, they're irregular. There's some lounge programs. Some of the regulations within those lounge programs are not very great, do not support business operations or profitability. And so I really welcome that. I think that would be a wonderful day. And I would say get started. If you want to do it, just get started.
Sure. Now, do you have any major, I'm sure there's a website people need to go to check for upcoming events. You got anything exciting coming up next couple of months?
Yeah, so we actually have an event coming up this Thursday, August 15th, and that is one of our pop networking events. We will host another one of those in November, right before Thanksgiving. That will be both of those in Phoenix. And then we're looking to do something at the beginning of December in Las Vegas around MJ BizCon.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm surprised though, I keep hearing about lounges and things that are supposed to be popping up in Vegas, but I've not seen any of them yet. It's crazy.
Yeah, a lot of them are still under construction. A lot of them, like so many of us, are strapped for funding. This is a brand new concept. This is something that people aren't sure if they want to invest into it. And while I would say Nevada has some of the best regulations when it comes to consumption lounges and their ability to be profitable, it's still a risk. And so I think the reason you haven't seen a lot of those lounges open is due to funding.
Sure. And now along with just being a lounge, do you put on a schedule where people can come in and understand? Like next Thursday, I might be able to come and find out more about cannabis that I never knew. A little education. Do you put on educational seminars around different areas? What?
Yes, yeah, we do. We always have that education center that's at any of our events, and then we will put on educational events. We do a lot of like short series videos that are available online, even. And then we always are directing people back to those guides that they can find on our website 24/7, 365.
Give out that website information for people right now if they wanted to know and want to check out. Inquiry minds want to know.
Yeah, pauseconsumptionlounge.com. And it's under our resources page.
Okay, is there anything coming down the pike anytime soon when it comes to, your TerrAscend?
Oh, yeah. I mean, lots of exciting things happening there. We have, in my capacity there on the new product side, we're always launching new products. Last year we did 114 new products in the year. So we're always very busy over there. I think I would keep an eye on what's happening in Michigan with the Gage brand because there is some exciting new coming in some new technology that we're using. I can't say a lot yet, but
Sure.
it'll be available soon.
Well, just with your breadth of knowledge in the industry, and where do you, if you had to put a crystal ball on, where do you think we're going to be in the next 3 to 4 years?
Yeah, man, I wish I had that crystal ball. That would be ideal. I think that I think we are very likely to see the rescheduling. Not that I feel necessarily positive about that personally, but I do think it will at least move the ball forward. I do think that we are going to start to see.
Wait. Let me slow you down for a second. But when you say it's going to move the ball forward, I think it's going to throw an ugly monkey wrench into this ball because a lot of people are thinking, oh, yeah, it's great. They'll reschedule. That'll get rid of the blockage from
280E
280E and
tax
all that.
and
Yeah,
stuff.
but
Yeah.
that's not necessarily true. That isn't necessarily true because
It's not guaranteed.
if it goes from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3, who controls Schedule 3 drugs? The FDA. So
Exactly.
now the
Yeah.
FDA going to step into every dispensary and say that all of your products on the shelves now have to be approved by us? Who actually?
I think that could happen.
Well, but you got to think about that. I'm asking questions and playing devil's advocate against myself at the same time. But okay, so they can not only step in and say we want to control every single product that you have on your shelves, and then they might say, "Oh, all these state initiatives called dispensaries got to go because the only person who gets to prescribe Schedule 3 medication are pharmacies, licensed
Yep.
pharmacies." So now all of a sudden you got this cat out the bag that's got to get shoved bag in a bag, and I'm not sure if a lot of states are going to want to agree with that.
I honestly do really agree with you. Those are my fears. I do see a future where the FDA could be involved and they could be at the cultivation and manufacturing level requiring, GMP good manufacturing practices in every facility and adhering to
Some of that
certain
might not
level.
be bad. Some of that might not be bad
No,
for consumers,
right.
but I don't
Exactly.
like the idea of people who have claimed that there's no value now all of a sudden trying to get value and make a little money. That really pisses me off.
Yeah,
I don't.
I agree.
Why would you put this under if there's an FDA person who's for the last 20 years been saying cannabis has no medical efficaciousness whatsoever. Now all of a sudden they're going to turn around and say, but I'm the guy in charge of making sure that you get efficacious medicine. I ain't believing
Yeah.
that.
I mean, honestly, I think if we look at how cannabis and hemp became illegal and now the path that it's going on to become more legal, it is all related to money. They made it illegal in the first place because they were trying to make money on other crops. Now that they see how much money is being made within these state programs, they want a piece of the pie. They want that revenue. And so that's why they're going to get involved.
And for our listeners out there who don't understand, guys, back in 2021, this country sold $25 billion worth of legal cannabis and probably 3 times as much in the black and gray market, somewhere around
Absolutely.
$70 to $75 billion worth of cannabis. And just to put that into perspective, at 2021, that means that they sold more cannabis than they sold milk. Milk.
Yeah.
Every grocery store in America, milk. They sold more cannabis than they sold energy drinks. Right now, we know that cannabis has now eclipsed cigarette smoking and alcohol. Alcohol in America. There's more cannabis being sold legally in America than there is alcohol being sold legally. So, I mean, it's really phenomenal. And I do get it. I mean, I understand why there are those who want to be at a distance and say that they control it, but at the same time, they're just trying to control the tax revenue.
Exactly. That's exactly what it's all about. And I do think that within the pharmaceutical sphere, there will be a push from those pharmaceutical companies to try to get involved. We're already starting to see it in some of the investments that they make into cannabis companies, but it will be very much like a pharmaceutical. It will be an isolate. It will be a synthetic. It will be something that isn't the plant.
They already tried to do that with something called Marinol like 30 years ago, and it's probably the least most prescribed drug in America today because it doesn't work. At some point in time, they will start to recognize the fact that plant-based isn't a negative. We use plant-based medicines for a lot of other medicines that are being used for everything from cancer to you name it. Not cannabis. I'm talking about plant-based medicines. So, there's no reason why we can't go with a plant-based medicine, but unfortunately, the pharmaceutical industry only believes in, the way they
want a carbon copy. Yeah. They want it to be a consistent, accurate copy of the thing, and it's not going to be like that.
It's never.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. It's never going to work that way because they don't have the wherewithal to try to examine multiple chemicals at the same time. They like a one-off. So THC doesn't work by itself. They can't think about THC and CBD. Their brains will fry. And then you say, oh, my Lord, not only THC, CBD, but let's also put a little CBN, CBC. Oh, my God. And then there's this stuff called terpenes. Oh, my God. Flavonoids. Oh, my God. I mean, it's like it's going to be a dog chasing its tail for the next 20 years by the time we get to any real solutions from the pharmaceutical industry.
Agreed. And if I was being positive about something that may happen within a rescheduling environment would be at least the opportunity to do more research. Yeah. Because research that has happened to date has been minimal. And if they have been able to do research, the quality of the product that is used in those studies is not comparable to what is actually available on the market. It is like seeds and stems of what is actually available. And so if we can do more research, get more information, understand what those real driving factors are, like you were saying, terpenes, flavonoids, ketones, aldehydes, these other components of the plant, things we probably haven't even discovered yet, then that I think would be good. If it's not then turned into an isolate and put into, a manufacturing line.
Yeah, I mean, what's really kind of incredible about this is the fact that, I hear it all the time. People say that there needs to be more research. There is more peer-reviewed published documents on cannabis than is any other drug that's available in a pharmacy.
Yeah, Israel has done a really great job in particular.
Not Israel, Isle of Man, South America, Colombia, Argentina. People have been researching cannabis now for the last 30 years around the world, but in the last 50 years around the world. But in the last 10, the rest of the world has decided, you know what? maybe we've been wrong about this. And so the rest of the world has really stepped up to the plate and been doing the requisite research that needs to get done. I mean, I think back in 2021, I think there were 3,500 brand new peer-reviewed published documents in that year alone. There are well over 300,000 of them out there if you just start looking. So, I mean, the research is there, the information is there. We just got to be better at getting that to the consumer.
Yes, agreed. Absolutely. Yeah, we did just actually publish a guide recently that does take it down to this next level. It's called Beyond Cannabinoids, and it does talk about these other components that are present in the plant that are really driving the effects for people who are looking for that, deeper information.
Gotcha. And what's next for you, Allison? I mean, you're in a 2-tiered career. You getting ready to start a third one?
Yeah, probably. Just my nature. I don't have anything planned as far as adding anything new. But I really, I'm going to continue with Pause, continue our events, continue advocating for legalization, and ideally move into a brick and mortar environment, not just here in Arizona, but across the country and even internationally. And then, just continue to positively contribute to the cannabis industry, whether it be through my role at TerrAscend or otherwise.
That's good. Well, I mean, you guys are clearly probably getting ready to venture into more states. So keep us up on what's going on and any of the success stories that you have coming down the pike. I'd like to hear about them. And make sure to give out that website one more time.
PauseConsumptionLounge.com.
Okay, and people can find out more information about where your upcoming events will be.
That you can find everything on our website. It's a perfect hub of finding our events, our resources. You can see our past events there, as well as download our guides and other resources, find our social pages as well.
My goodness. Well, thank you so much. Fantastic. Did a great job. Thank you so much for joining us today, Allison. And thank you for sharing all your insights. It's been a pleasure to have you on the show. And I want to make sure all of our listeners out there understand where you have to go to get more information about Pause. And you can do so. And you can also go on our website, Let's Be Blunt with Montel. And remember, knowledge is power and awareness is key. So until next time, stay informed, stay frosty, and we'll see you in the next go around. Be well. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for joining us on Let's Be Blunt with Montel. Thanks for joining me on Let's Be Blunt with Montel. Please make sure you're subscribed and hit the bell to be notified when new episodes post each week. We'd love to hear your feedback also, so please send us your comments.